Welcome back, everybody. I'm going to be your host and guide into the crazy world of retail theft, loss prevention, and all things security. As an active loss prevention specialist, I'm going to be here and provide you with some insights, analysis, and strategies that will help you navigate this crazy and complex landscape of retail theft. Now, before we get started, I want to let you know that due to the nature of my profession, I'm not going to disclose my identity, but rest assured this doesn't compromise the quality of the information I'm going to share with you. In fact, it more allows me to provide a unique perspective as an insider in the industry. In this video, I'm going to be diving into California's ridiculous Proposition 47 and explore some strategies, legal considerations, and look at some real life scenarios related to it. Whether you're a retailer looking for some solutions or just a concerned citizen interested in understanding the impact of retail theft, hopefully this channel is going to be a perfect resource for you. If you haven't done so already, you know this is coming. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming videos. My mission here is going to be to educate, inform, and empower. And I'm excited to have everyone a part of this and build a community. So, alright, let's jump right in. As stated, in this video, I'm going to be going over California's Proposition 47 and its impact. So, without further ado, let's dive into the fascinating and crazy world of retail theft and loss prevention.
And warned about this, said that this would be providing a green light for thieves to just come in and take what they want. She is the California Retailers Association president. Rachel, I mean, this is probably your worst nightmare and your members' worst nightmare, essentially a stamp from the government, no less, in the state. Do not involve yourself here.
Of course, they're going to go into this, but this bill, in a nutshell, is going to do exactly that. I'll let this play out, and they're going to summarize it, but I'll go into it a little bit more.
What do you think?
I feel like I live in a parallel universe. I'm here fighting for more money for organized retail crime and retail theft. We've been pushing changes to Prop 47 because we've told the legislature and elected officials that we need changes to the law. And the answer is the state Senate passes a bill that basically...
Okay, now these two idiots, I'll look this up, use a little bit of Googling to find out where this was. And this was in Northbridge, California. I'm not sure exactly where that's at. I don't live in California. Don't plan on living in California. But as you see, November 2022, these two guys, I have their names here. Two arrested in Northbridge burglary spree. They stole some bicycles from a bike shop. I'm sure these were expensive bicycles, though.
Eliminates loss prevention professionals in the state of California. I know that basically changes to the law, and the answer is the state Senate passes a bill that basically eliminates loss prevention professionals in the state of California. I don't.
Now, what she's talking about is Proposition 47. Now we're gonna go to, bam, right here, Section 4. So I'm gonna try to keep this in the correct spot here. All right. They're wanting to add Section 6401.9. Go back down. Following definitions: a dedicated safety personnel. What she's talking about with loss prevention. A dedicated safety personnel includes but is not limited to security guards, security officers, loss prevention officers, and other persons employed for purposes of ensuring the security of persons at and property of the employees or employers' workplaces. Go back to this video.
I don't understand it. It's hard to wrap my mind around it. It feels like, we are siding on, we're siding with the criminals, and we're putting law-abiding citizens at risk.
The backdrop for this is so many retailers leaving California, certainly these high crime areas, whether it's San Francisco or Los Angeles.
This part's true. There are many businesses that are shutting down and leaving. I don't think this is oblivious to most people, especially anyone in law enforcement, loss prevention. When I refer to loss prevention, I'm also speaking of just security in general. asset protection and loss prevention. It's the same exact thing. Um, but everyone in our circle, with law enforcement, detectives, investigators, organized retail crime investigators, anyone in loss prevention, are well aware of the craziness that goes on in California. I think people nationwide is aware of the nonsense and craziness that goes on in California. And I think it's widely known that California, in general, as far as the laws are concerned, do little to nothing to prevent and deter this stuff. That, and even when people are caught, nothing happens because they see it as, well, it's a victimless crime, and victimless meaning a person's not being affected. And of course, if they come in and they, cause harm to someone, that's a different story. But they're seeing just shoplifting as, it's not really hurting anybody, but it is. On average, the last time I looked this up, on average, retailers increase prices by like roughly $550 a year per customer. So you as a consumer, you as a shopper, your expenditure per year goes up on average $550 ballpark every year due to companies having to raise prices because of theft. It's that simple. And here's a crazy number for you. Um, on average, and this is part of a 2022 study, and this was also done years ago too, and the numbers haven't changed. Is let me just go to it. You know what? Right here. Right here. Per minute, $72,000 gets stolen in the United States, and that's as far as shoplifting. It's it's much higher than 37. Yeah, right here. $94.5 billion a year, according to the 2022 National Retail Security Survey. And that's also these same surveys also found years ago, because I still use this in my education with employees to let them know just how bad shoplifting is, especially a lot of the new employees that don't exactly have a familiarity in shoplifting and they don't understand how severe of a problem it is. Because a lot of employees just shake it off as, well, it's not my problem. And true, it's not. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not their issue. It's the employer, the owner's issue. But it trickles down. This problem comes right back down, and laws are changed, policies are changed based on all of this. Um, Hours are reduced to compensate for the loss, but $94.5 billion a year is what's lost due to shoplifting. That's employees and just your typical customer shoplifters. But on average, a shoplifter gets away 48 times before they're caught. Now that's the 48 instances of theft. That could be they come in and just grab a drink, or they come in and walk out, push out, two or three 50-inch TVs. And I've worked at a couple different companies, so I'm going to probably use Walmart as an example a lot, as everybody steals from Walmart. Um, Everything in there is up for grabs. On a normal day, you'd catch someone from just all areas of the store, uh, and you would probably walk up and down every single aisle in the store throughout your shift, and it never failed. You could go in there blind, no arms, no legs, and you would still somehow stumble on someone stealing something. And it's just that rampant in Walmart and other retailers similar to Walmart. Your hardware stores are a massive, massive hit for organized retail crime. But I'm gonna hold off on that. Get back to this video. Let her talk. Uh,
In search of safer pastures, I guess. So the state must be aware of that.
it's running off.
They are aware of it, and and here's what's happening: is this bill was
But they don't want to get out of
introduced
the car.
as a workplace violence bill. That's the premise of the.
That cop executed the part of arresting. First ask, then you demand, and then you make. If a suspect doesn't comply by you asking, then you demand them. If they don't comply by you demanding, you make them, whether they like it or not. I know a lot of people watch a lot of videos of arrests and so on, and they get all up in arms over law enforcement, using force. They have a job to do. They have a full shift of nonsense they have to go to and take care of. Same with us, dealing with shoplifters. We don't have time to stand around and talk about it. Either do as you're told, or take the consequences from that action. It's just that simple. But California does things different. They hug you first and then tell you you're not going to be charged.
That's the premise of the bill. And candidly, retailers, and
Go
here's
back.
here's what's happening: is this bill was introduced as a workplace violence bill.
Now this is true. Probably the first half of this bill talks about workplace violence, stalking, restraining orders, things of that nature, and then the second half goes into theft.
That's the premise of the bill. And candidly, retailers already have no chase policies for our sales associates.
Also true. The no chase policy, many retailers, she says retailers as if it's encompassing everybody. I know what she means. Just some more context here. Um, an old adage that we all have in loss prevention is when in doubt, let it out. If I'm in doubt of the theft, if I'm in doubt of my observation, like if for instance, if I 100% see someone pick something up, they conceal it, whether it's in their pockets, down their pants, inside the jacket, in a bag, in a purse, in a backpack, whatever. Right then and there, red flags are up. Like, hey, this is a theft in action now. So now I got to maintain my constant observation and make sure they don't ditch it or discard it or get rid of it. And then, because that act alone constitutes the crime of shoplifting. Concealment is the crime. They don't have to leave the store. Policies dictate and state that you should wait until they leave the store to affect the apprehension. But legality is concerned, where legality is concerned, the act of concealing alone, hiding in plain view with intent to deprive the merchant, is the crime. So a lot of people think like, well, I didn't leave the store yet, or I haven't left the sidewalk, or I haven't left the property. You don't have to. Right as soon as the item goes in your purse, pocket, backpack, you're done. Legally, legally speaking, you're done. That's it. You just committed a crime. If if a law enforcement officer was there and they spotted you doing it, they could hook you, and then go to the owner and be like, hey, do you want to go ahead and charge them for this theft? The owner says yes. There's nothing you can do about it, and say, oh well, I just meant to put that in my purse and carry it around, because we've all heard this. Everybody in loss prevention, cops, we've all heard that statement. Like, oh, I was just putting it there while I shopped. Okay, no, you weren't. And you'll hear a lot of excuses, but California pushing this bill is going to prevent employees, like this headline right here. The California Senate passed the bill to prevent employees from confronting shoplifters. So it's going to be to a point of, if these smaller stores that don't have dedicated loss prevention, they just don't have the funding for it, or just the fact that it's a small footprint store, a small square footage, that a loss prevention specialist officer can't be there in plain clothes all day long and expect to hide. This would be more of an instance where they would have a uniformed security presence. But then California wants to dictate what they can and can't do. So it puts them in another position of, again, not being able to approach and confront shoplifters. Because the way they're going to word this, the way they have worded this, is if the instance poses a possible threat, you're to back off. Every shoplift poses a possible threat. Every single one of them. Whether it's kids shoplifting, whether it's just normal teenagers and middle-aged adults shoplifting, or whether it's someone that's 80 years old shoplifting, the act of committing a crime itself poses a threat. But back to the old adage of when in doubt, let it out. if I have 100% reason and I've observed you pick it up, put it in your pocket, and you're on the way to the exit, and I know for a fact, 100%, it's still in your pocket or down your pants, but then I just get the little inkling that you're going to be a serious problem, just back off. Take my video, take my statement, go down to the local police department, sheriff's office, whatever, hand over my evidence, get a warrant. Once that suspect's identified, boom, done. But we would rather just catch the person in the act and deal with it there on the spot. Because loss prevention, as it is a huge intelligence gathering for law enforcement. Massive intelligence gathering. There's a lot of people that get caught on their warrants from other crimes, all because they went and shoplifted. You know, there's a whole thing of most overwhelming amount of people when they're caught shoplifting. Uh, a lot of us would always ask, "How many times have you done this?" And all we did was just give them an open door to say, "Oh, this is my first time," or typically it's going to either be that or, "Well, I've only done this once or twice." And like I would say, I would put a paycheck on 90% of the times when we ask that question. Those are the answers we're going to get, and everybody knows it's BS. That statistically, a person gets away 48 times before they're caught. So the odds of you catching everybody on their first time or first or second time, very unlikely. Even though everybody says those answers. I had started to change my questioning to, when was the last time you got caught? And typically ask it in a calm and friendly manner, as if it's not a big deal. And usually people just instantly, without even thinking about it, 2 months ago. Oh, really? Who got you? Where'd you get caught? And they'd spill it. Like, I got caught at XYZ at Target. Like, oh man, what'd you get caught stealing? What were you doing there? And they would still just go in and open up and talk to you about it. Whereas just shutting down when you straightforward ask how many times, because for some reason people think that you're gonna charge them for that. I don't know. Or saying first time and stuff, it just makes them look innocent, and it makes their crime not really seem like it's a big deal, and they should be let go because, oh well, this is my first time. But I'm sure we've all caught somebody on their first time, but it's highly unlikely, very unlikely. And here's some more statistics. I don't know what just happened there. 1 out of 11 people in the United States are shoplifters, active shoplifters, as in they routinely, probably throughout the year, steal something, shoplift. 1 out of 11. So if you're in a large crowd, there's a good handful of people there that are thieves, and they shoplift. It's all over the map. It's everybody. It's your friends that you never saw coming. A quarter of them are kids. 55% of the shoplifters begin when they're in their teens, in middle school, high school, whatnot. Probably stealing petty stuff, just nonsense. Some of them keep that habit because a lot of them don't get caught. 1 in 48, 1 in 48 times. So they grow and they graduate into stealing more expensive things, higher profile items. 89% of kids know other kids that steal. So that's a huge one, and most of them hang out with those kids. So it bleeds. And this is a problem. This is an issue with school resource officers having with, we would get a lot of warrants and stuff, and we would turn over a lot of kids to the sheriff's department, and they would reach out to the school resource officers or SROs, and they would have to go deal with these kids in school. And a lot of times, we would tell them that, hey, you don't want to be yanked up in the middle of class by your SRO, do you? And of course not. But they are. They're pulled aside in school a lot based on shoplifting. And a lot of the larger schools have this whole peer program where they have to write a letter to their peers or classmates basically and apologize for shoplifting. And it does nothing because all it does, it's a silly little thing in school. All the other kids are just gonna talk to them and poke fun, but really, what's gonna happen is they're gonna tell their other kids, their other friends, what they done and how they got caught. So what does it do? It's like the old saying that for a lot of criminals, like gang-related stuff, streets is high school, college or jail is college. Well, they just went through high school of shoplifting. When they connect with more friends that shoplift, they're going to become more proficient and professional at it because now they can sit here and bounce ideas off one another and be more prepared for the next time they go. Maybe calm their nerves or do it differently the next time around where they don't get caught. And 1 in 48, so they have a higher chance. They have a high chance of getting away the next time they do it again, even though their nerves are through the roof and they're not wanting to get caught. So let's say statistically they go in, do it again a month later, they don't get caught. They just empowered themselves because they don't know these statistics and stuff. Most people don't, but they think, in their mind, they're gonna be like, "Oh wow, well, I got caught that one time, but I've just got away like 4 more times, so I know what to do now. I think next time I'm gonna go in and take a couple TVs over $1,000 in both states. Boom, felony. All because they thought they could get away with it and thought that they had the best plan of action in order to execute their little theft. They just now committed a felony, and I think that a lot of it just grows. No one starts big. Nobody starts big. It's just not a thing. Sure, it's done, but that's just not how it goes. People graduate into this nonsense, and they grow until they think they can get the high dollar, high amount stuff. And this is where all your organized retail crimes happen, and your organized criminal gangs and theft rings that travel up and down the west and east coast and across the states. It's a real thing. And there's people going back to California. There's people that go from states away in order to go to California to steal because they know people know nationwide that California does nothing about it. And obviously the stores know they don't want to be there. So they're pulling out. They're shutting down. Now what are these communities doing that where the honest citizens have nowhere to actually shop and buy the stuff that they need throughout the day, week, month? Now they got to drive an hour away, 2 hours away to go and shop. And again, there's no retailers in that area for the honest people. Obviously, there's no retailers in that area for the dishonest people. So the dishonest citizens now go to the other areas and they just spread and it just bleeds into other regions. And where California as a whole does nothing about it or very little, California is just this whole chasm of nonsense causing all the retailers to pack up and leave. But I'm going to get back to this video because I could sit here and just keep ranting on and on and on.
We already tell them it's not worth your life to go after someone stealing. But retailers also have loss prevention professionals who are specially trained to deal in these types of situations.
Now, what she's talking about is the when in out. When in doubt, let it out. That's exactly what she just referred to when I paused this earlier. Loss prevention, we're trained in that mindset. It takes a little bit longer to grasp the idea and concept of it because everybody wants to catch that person, and it kind of becomes like a cat and mouse game. Like nobody likes losing. We hate it. We hate when someone gets away. We especially hate when we let someone get away. But I'm gonna go home at the end of my shift. So if I'm in doubt of the safety, I'm just gonna back off. Let them get away with it. I'll go and take the video, go get a warrant, and just have them arrested later. Or hopefully, if they got away, they'll just come back in and do it again, and I'll just catch them then. Maybe the circumstances are different, or if they come back in, we can call law enforcement, have someone there to assist with the apprehension or assist with the arrest, or just have them arrest them based on the prior theft. It's that simple, but California don't want to allow retailers to do this, so this is the problem. It's California. It's the politicians. It's ridiculous, and they are causing their own problem, and then they're trying to create all these little excuses on why, but none of it makes sense.
This bill lumps them all together, which means that the loss prevention professionals who are trained to protect our employees and protect our customers.
Yes, got a bag ready to go. See, these people, these three. I'm not sure if there's someone else. It looks like an arm at the in the door of the car. I don't know. But these three, they're probably not from that area. They're probably not even from San Francisco, and a lot of times they're coming from other areas because they know these regions in California and just California in general doesn't do anything about it. California doesn't classify rioting as rioting, even though they have a statute for it that changes the criminality and the consequences. That's why they don't want to call their large groups of people stealing stuff and damaging property. They don't want to call it a riot because it changes the legality of the offenses. It's the whole state's ridiculous. It's fault line needs to hurry.
Are no longer going to be able to do their job. So, in the name of workplace violence, we're actually going to create situations where there could be more violence because people who are addicted to drugs, have mental health issues,
Yep.
who are homeless, who are not going into the diversion programs we were promised under Prop 47 because there's no felony and people are not.
What she's talking about, where there's no felony, that proposition reduced the offenses of felonies down to misdemeanors. So, like people, and there was a report where someone brought in a calculator, and I've seen this in person myself too. When I was at Walmart, people will sit and add up the dollar amount of the stuff that they're stealing to make sure they stay under the felony threshold, and people are doing that in California. Now, there's a lot of cases with Walgreens where people would come in and they would just make sure they stayed underneath $950 so that way they didn't scoop up a felony. And going back to the statistics, 48 times is the average that someone gets away. If you got, say, these groups that go in and they make sure they're at $900 each and every time, well, let's just do the math here. What is it? Say $900 times, we'll lowball it 45. $40,500. $40,000 that you could reasonably get away with before you're caught. And the odds of being linked to all 48 shoplifts is low. I mean, you might be linked to a couple, but it's low. And once it goes to court, they're probably going to reduce it down to a misdemeanor anyway, even if you did manage to get them hooked up on other crimes. So California is creating a problem, and what fear with us is that their nonsense with this bill is going to bleed over into some other states, and this is going to be some widespread issue with statutes, and California is the culprit and the cause of it.
Being prosecuted. Now we're opening up the doors to them and saying, come in, because we're not going to be able to use our loss prevention professionals to control these situations.
Now, what she's referring to is the workplace violence aspect of Proposition 47 and the whole bill. Basically stating, if there's, in a nutshell, if there's a cause of concern, I'm paraphrasing this, if there's a cause of concern that there's a threat of violence in the situation, then you're to back off. Just, let it go. But the issue here is every single theft is a cause of concern or a threat of violence. There's always a chance that you might get hurt. I can't say some certain words here. I don't want to get flagged on YouTube. But there's always a chance that you might get hurt. Always a chance. Like I don't know who's gonna turn around and do something when I'm making my approach to apprehend someone. Everybody's different. I've had some crazy stuff happen over the years. I think every loss prevention person has had some wild stories of some really unexpected customers or shoplifters that, man, I didn't really think that person was going to do that. But hey, they did. or the ones that you think are going to be an issue end up being calm. It's random. It's all over the board. Never know what to expect.
I'm just wondering, it was born of the idea that a lot of companies don't want to endanger their employees. But now, of course, this is much bigger than that. What do your folks do? I mean, there's this idea that if you don't steal more than $950 worth of goods, you don't have to worry even about getting taken in to a police house. So what do they do?
Somebody needs to tell me what a police house is.
Some of them can do, have their own procedures, I guess, but they would be in violation of the law.
Now, this right here, what they're doing, obviously, looks like a gas station, convenience store. A theft after hours, once the store is closed, automatically becomes burglary. Just to put that out there, it's no longer shoplift at that point. If the store is closed and there's nobody there, there's no reasonable expectation that they can pay for the stuff in an honest manner, which clearly they're breaking through the door, a well-constructed door at that. But let's say you drive up to a Lowe's or Home Depot at night, and you steal some flowers outside. In a lot of states, you just bumped what you thought is a shoplift straight to a burglary because it's after hours. Store's closed. You know you're not supposed to be there, especially stealing. You don't belong on that property. You don't belong in that parking lot. It's straight to a felony burglary charge. But California would more than likely bump it down to a misdemeanor anyway. They're like, oh well. Who cares? You broke that door in and stole everything in there. We'll just go ahead and drop that down to a misdemeanor, and then explain to you how to expunge that off your record. That way you can prance around California with a clean record, even though you broke into a gas station at night. It's California, folks. It's California.
Correct. Here's what's going to happen. I've talked to retailers. They're going to leave. And, 2 years ago, I told people in San Francisco, when we were having so many problems in San Francisco, if we didn't do something differently, big national brands were going to leave.
And they did. They did. A lot of companies have left San Francisco and California just in general. And all the other retailers are now picking up the impact that was spread to the others since they left. Now the lesser amount of retailers are taking the impact of what used to be spread out over a larger area. So the ones that remain are now getting impact worse. Like a lot worse. And that's where this is creating a problem. If they would just let businesses stop thefts, let loss prevention do their thing, do their job, and especially start convicting these people in appropriate manners and stop this hug a thug mentality of reducing all the sentences, reducing the felonies to misdemeanors, reducing the, or not reducing, but allowing the misdemeanors to be dismissed if they pay a fine. Because these things happen. If you're not aware, or if you've never sat all day in a courtroom, it will blow your mind how many charges are dismissed, how many charges are reduced, and the fines associated. Like there are so many high profile offenses where the suspect just gets hit with less than $100 fine. I'm not joking. This is across the country. This isn't California just in general alone. But you in a lot of instances you will be impacted more for a speeding violation and a traffic violation than you will for stealing a bunch of stuff. It blows my mind. I can't wrap my head around that one, but back to the video.
And no one listened. And now what are we dealing with 2 years later? National brands are leaving San Francisco. So my alert to elected officials, particularly members in the state assembly who now have an opportunity to debate this bill, is that trust me when I say, if you continue to take away the ability for retailer, and remember, this bill applies to every single industry, not just retail. So think about other industries that also have security personnel. That's no longer allowed under the way this bill is.
Clubs, bars, venues. It's like I said, this this nonsense is going to bleed over to far more far more establishments, not just shoplifts. It's going to cause problems in many more areas. And even if you get a prosecutor that wants to do the right thing and goes against the well wishes of the powers that be in California, politicians, even if you get one that wants to do the right thing, they'll lose their job. I mean, it's that simple.
Is written currently. But here's the other point, Neil, is that Cal OSHA has been working on regs for workplace violence for years, and they've been working with industries on these regs. We believe we should be following what Cal OSHA is doing. That's the governor appointed board. That is the agency that is tasked with work safety.
Yeah. So what she's getting to is this bill is covering workplace violence. OSHA. They are essentially wanting OSHA to oversee loss prevention. And the problem with that, everybody knows the stigma of OSHA and OSHA violations. If you do anything that's remotely unsafe, it can be an OSHA violation. Confronting a shoplifter can be considered unsafe. Can be considered unsafe. Even though most instances we're fine, that there's nothing that happens, but just the act of confronting a shoplifter can be unsafe. That's the problem with this. That's a huge problem with this. If you let OSHA oversee this, they're going to stop letting loss prevention approach shoplifters. That is a free for all for people across the country to go to California and shoplift and steal, regardless of the dollar amount. They'll just come in from 4 states away, steal a bunch of stuff, dip out, and leave. That retailer will never get them identified because they're not from that area. Law enforcement is not familiar with who they are. They may come back 1, 2, 3, 6 months later, do it again. More than likely, they're not going to link you or link that person to the previous case. And they get away again, and again, and again, and again. And there are crime rings. I can't stress that I'm dead serious with that explanation and that verbiage. There are rings that take advantage of this. They will go from state to state and take advantage of areas and municipalities and jurisdictions that are soft on sentencing. And the ones that do this for a living, the organized retail crime rings that do this for a living, they know the areas where they can truly get away with it, and they take advantage of it. And the more they do it, the more they can get away with it. And the more that places like this, California, the more that they're soft, the larger target they are.
That's the group that should be working with us on workplace violence. We all want a safe working environment, but this isn't the way to do it. And it's not the way to just rush through legislation, because we're going to have unintended consequences if we continue down this route.
Yeah, you might already be seeing them, to your point, Rachel. Thank you very much. Keep us posted. We appreciate it.
I will. Thank you.
And to touch on the numbers again, where was it? I had it here. $94.5 billion. Now, there used to be this whole thing of employees cause more of an impact to retailers than your typical customer shoplifters. That's not true. I don't know why companies still say that. I think because of it's like a stigma or a reputation, maybe. But as far as actual numbers and data, employees are not at a greater fault for shrink or loss of merchandise than a normal shoplifter is. Your customer shoplifters are a far greater impact to your company. I think as far as an image, your employees, it's bad because the other employees will talk about it. If they know of an employee that's stealing, they'll talk about it and say that their employer don't do anything about it. But I think everybody in retail knows that the customer is way more of a concern than an employee. Yeah, where was it? I found where Yeah, right here. Apprehensions in 2022, shoplifting apprehensions 295,654 apprehensions for theft, a 50.9% increase from the year prior of 195,000 apprehensions. So, like right here, the number 99. Let's say 100,000. 100,000 more thefts year over year. Increase in good apprehensions where the person actually came back, or they were caught, whatever the case. Recoveries. This would be the the amount of merchandise you got back. 2021, 124,000. 90.5, 90% increase in the next year of $237,000. 112 or nah, I really messed the numbers up. $124 million. 2022, 90.5% increase up to $237 million. So year over year, it rose $112 million of the amount of merchandise that the retailer got back. $112 million recovered compared to, where is it? $94.5 billion. Retailers are getting back nothing. When it comes down to it, they're getting back nothing. And it's hugely based on statutes that get in the way, or retailers that create soft policies that don't let us explore and do everything that we want to do, that we as loss prevention want to do for the company. Because a lot of us, we're not just there for a 9 to 5 paycheck. A lot of us are in it for the bigger picture, and it is humbling for many of us to create a positive impact and to get apprehensions. And it doesn't necessarily become a numbers game, but it definitely becomes a bragging game with us and our fellow loss prevention and the company we work for, the our local law enforcement. We all build this like really good uh, community, and we're all on the same game, same team. But when you've got all these statutes and policies in place that tie our hands and hinder us, what good are we? You've got this great resource in place that can do great things, but then company policies and state legislators get in the way and chain our feet and tie our hands down, all with a piece of paper, and it's ridiculous. And the longer that stays in place, the more that becomes known to the professional shoplifters. Your your average shoplifter, they don't really know about all this stuff. But your professionals, the ones that have gotten caught, that have went to jail, this is where the old thing of streets is high school and jail is college, prison's college. That the meaning behind that is your average shoplifter, when they're just coming in, they're more than likely not telling their family and friends that they shoplift and steal. So it's just a internalized, compartmentalized thing to them and theirself. Only they know about it. But then once they're caught, now we know about it. We know who they are. Let's say they get caught, and let's say they go to jail. Well, they go to jail. Of course, everybody in jail, prison is going to ask, why are they there? And once word gets out that they got caught shoplifting, other people that also shoplift that are in jail and prison come to talk to them. They share information, they share ideas. Now they have a connection when they get out with someone else that have gave them some education. Well, now they just graduated college. So when they get out, here's some recidivism for you. Now they have more knowledge on some new methods, maybe some new stores. Maybe they learned the policies of a store. Maybe they learned about the statute on a few little ways that they can circumvent policy and stuff, and literally get away with theft, all because of a policy. A policy is not law, but I still have to do my job based on company policy. So if there's a policy that gets in my way, of affecting a good apprehension, even though that I know for a fact that the person's stealing, but yet policy tells me not to treat it as a theft. Well, if these people go to jail, find out, get out, steal based on that knowledge, they'll keep doing it. They will keep doing it because why wouldn't they? They now just found a surefire way to get away with it because they're circumventing a policy. But then you've got places like California that are putting it in law with these propositions. It's even worse, far worse. So now let's say you got a mom and pop retailer that they don't have dedicated loss prevention. It's just them trying to protect what's theirs. And then the state that they decided to be kind enough to open up their business in and share that revenue and share that tax revenue is not going to let them protect their property. They're going to close up, go somewhere else, move, and that's exactly what they're doing. But that's it for today. I'm going to go ahead and end this. Hopefully that gave you a little bit of insight into the ridiculousness of California's laws, Proposition 47, how they're handling and treating shoplifting, theft, organized crime. Hopefully that gives you some insight. So again, before I leave, to do the redundant, I'm going to say, if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell because there are many, many, many more videos on theft and shoplifting that I want to go over. Hopefully, in the future, I don't keep them as long because I don't want to. I want to keep these about 20 minutes. Let me know what you think. Should I shoot for 15 minutes? Should I go for 30? Should I go for an hour? Let me know. I don't want to be boring, but I also don't want to just hammer with too much information per video. But in the idea of just helping me out, let me know. Thank you, and I hope to see you on the next one.